I'll give it another few minutes, let some more people join. I know some people are joining a tad late. Start at 6:35. But if you are on and you don't have, if you didn't attend last week or didn't see the video or got behind, you'll see on Blackboard under Contents, I have the current structural model that I just put up there in case you got behind or you don't have it. We're going to continue with, like I said, we're going to finish off the foundation. Then we're gonna continue with steel framing tonight. So if you don't have the structural model, this one, remember that. If you don't have this one, whoop, there shouldn't be any columns in yours. That we had the foundation walls and the footing. That's the one we're working in. Actually, I'm going to close mine out so I don't get too far ahead of you. I was playing around with it. Give it just a couple more minutes while a few more join. Okay, we can get started. So basically, if you missed what I had just said, sorry about my phone going off. Let me just move this over here. So basically, we are continuing with our model that we were working in last week. If you don't have it, or if you got behind, I do have it on Blackboard, in the content folder under current structural model. You can find it. You can find it there on Blackboard. I had the Blackboard panel up, but then I, for some reason, inexplicably closed it. I'm afraid I'll close out of Blackboard if I close the next one, so I'm not going to do that. So, as we finished last week, we basically had our concrete foundation wall, and if you remember, we put a strip footing underneath it. But the problem is we have a lot of columns that are bearing on this. So in the project browser, under structural plans, let's all go down to top of footing. If you remember when we made that level, we can now go down the top of footing. So if you could double click on T period O period footing, we can roll down there, and I can better explain what we're about to do here. So in the top of footing view, what we'll see are these column grid intersections. Now there eventually will be steel columns here, but the problem is we have a point load bearing on each of these intersections, and this foundation wall is not thick enough to pick that up. It doesn't have the proper reinforcing. It just ain't big enough, right? So we need to put in piers, and we need to put in pilasters, or I'm sorry, we need to put in pilasters for the columns that are going to be on the exterior, and we need to put in piers, right, for the columns that are going to be freestanding. The difference being a pilaster is just basically a foundation that is poured in to another foundation monolithically, whereas a pier is freestanding. You can picture like a pier that goes out into the ocean, right? The same kind of idea. So what we need to do is put piers and pilasters in. Luckily, Revit doesn't know the difference between them. It actually thinks that they're concrete columns. So that's what we're going to do here. So again, if you're in structural plans, and if you're in the top of footing level, we can proceed to put in these piers and these pilasters. Okay? Is anyone not with me? Excellent. Everyone got right on it. Good to see. So let's go to the structure tab right here. Go to structure. Right. And we're going to go to column. Click on column. Now, if we click our drop down in the properties, we'll see that we have preloaded columns, not many, but a couple. And we have concrete rectangular columns, and that's actually what we want to use in this case. So under concrete rectangular columns, let's go ahead and select the 12 by 18. We can grab any one of them, it doesn't matter. We're going to duplicate it and make a new one. Right? So with the concrete rectangular column selected, we'll click on edit type right here, edit type. Now I want to come over here and I want to click on duplicate. We're basically making a copy of this column and we're going to make it bigger, right? Let's click on duplicate. All right, so I don't like to go inches, I have to go feet and inches. So let's type in 2 foot dash 6 inches. I type in 2 foot dash 6 inches, just like that. If you have a typo here, it's not going to affect the actual size of it. This is just a name. I could call it Eric's Awesome Pier or something. Don't, but just call it 2 by 6 by 2 by 6. Then click OK. Now for dimensions B and H, they're both going to be 2 foot 6. So type in 2 space 6, and then for the H, we're going to type in 2 space 6, and we're going to hit enter. We're going to click OK. Is everyone with me? Excellent. Now what I want to do in our properties for our height, I want to make sure it says height, right? Now I want to make sure that height is up to level 1. It's like that. Now what I want to do, if we zoom out, I want to click on this button right here at grid.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
When I try to change it to level 1, I get top constraint is invalid for the level.
Are you in the top of footing level?
Yeah.
Yeah, the same thing occurs to me.
Oh, let me make sure mine's gonna work. Okay, mine worked, so I don't know what your problem is. I'm kidding. 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 So okay, so I'm gonna go back to column. So we're in column, okay, and we are in the top of footing level, correct?
Yes.
Structural plan top of footing.
Yep.
Okay, and we're gonna change this to height.
Oh, add it
Was
to
it set?
depth. Okay, I see.
Andrea, you too?
Yeah, same.
So it works now?
Yep, I changed it to level 1.
Nice.
Thank you.
Now, you're welcome. You're welcome. Now for placement, I'm going to make it real easy, right? So for multiple here, click at grids. We're going to wind up putting in too many, but we can clean them up. So click at grids. Now, if we just pick a box or a window right around our whole model, just like this, sweep around it just like this. I'm going to pick a spot like right about here, and you'll see it's gonna put them in there. And then we're going to simply click on finish. And it puts them in. It put a few too many in there, but that's okay. Anyone not get that? Now we'll see how Revit works. It's so that looks like it's poured monolithically, right? We know that these are separate items, but when they form this up, the crew putting in the foundations they're gonna create their forms that look like this. They're gonna try to not put that little bump out on the outside of it, but it's if it's got to be there, it's got to be there, right? So we put in a couple too many, like column A6, that can be deleted. So select A6, the column, and delete it. I should say the pier. Now we're going to come down, we're going to delete this one here. Select it, delete that one, then delete that one. And then we'll delete column F, F6, delete that one. So it should look like that. If we go to a 3D view, of course, we've got these little stumpy piers and pilasters. Did anyone not get that? Okay, now, just because we put these in there, we're not done, right? Because these aren't enough. These need to bear on something, right? So our point load, you see that little red dot on these, that's our point load. So we want to transfer all of that weight, all of that moment, all of that axial bending into the ground, right? We want that to terminate into a much larger footing that goes underneath these. Okay, so this is where we have to put in isolated footings for these. Now, generally, when a structural engineer designs this, they're going to have a geotechnical report. We don't have that, obviously. We're just putting in foundations, but that would be the difference between if they had deep piles or shallow foundations, which what we're doing here is considered a shallow foundation, right? So let's go back down the top of footing. And we're going to put in bigger 3'6" spread footings, or Revit calls them isolated footings. It's the same vernacular. So under foundation, on the foundation panel, click on the isolated button right here, structural foundation isolated. And the same but opposite problem, we have to duplicate this, but this one's actually too big. We're going to make it smaller. So let's click on edit type. Click edit type right here. Now let's click duplicate. for the name, we're going to call it 3 foot dash 6 inches by 3 foot dash 6 inches by 12 inches, and we'll get rid of the number 2. So it's 3.6 by 3.6 by 12. I know I'm mixing feet and inches, but I'm peculiar that way. So click OK. Now the foundation thickness, that's going to be 1 foot. The width, type in 3 space 6. And for the length, type in 3 space 6, hit enter. And now we have a square footing that's a foot thick by 3.5 feet wide. Let's click OK. Now this one's going to be even easier because we're going to select at columns this time, because we know we want this at the bottom of those columns, right? So we're going to select at columns. And now we'll pick a box right around this whole thing again. Once you see that they're in there, let's just click on finish. Hit escape a couple times. Go to a 3D view. And now we have our foundation system basically complete, right? Let's hit the save button. Now is a good time to save it. Oh, let me move my email out of the way. Any questions or comments? Anyone behind? Good. Okay, now let's start with steel framing. Now that we have our foundation in place, we can go ahead with the steel framing. I'm hopeful that everyone has the columns we're going to use, but if not, well, we can get around it. So to start with our steel framing, let's go up to level 1 under structural plans. So if you just double click on level 1. Okay, here we are. Notice that we can now see our foundations, and we can see our architectural model that's sitting here as well. I don't want to really see the architectural model anymore. If you remember in the 3D view, we just turned it off in our visibility graphics, you know, under Revit links. But in this case, you know what? A lot of times a structural engineer is going to use your model to get the outline and to get the column grid locations. They're going to turn it off completely. So let's go back down to level 1 if you left level 1. And in the project browser, if we scroll all the way down to the bottom, notice that we can coordinate our Revit links, right? Because remember, we had to link that architectural model in for coordination. So if we jump to this, we click the little plus sign, we'll see that our architectural link is loaded in here, and it's that little blue arrow just indicates that it's active. So if we right click, or I'm sorry, it indicates that it's loaded, right? So if we right click on this architectural link and we just go unload, it doesn't remove it, we can always reload it. This is going to unload it for the entire model, right? For any other user that is in the model, they'll see this. They won't see this. So click unload. And it just says that you can't undo or redo. It's not part of an undo redo. Well, I'll have to live with it. Click OK. And now here we are, right? We can clearly see where our columns have to go. It's a funky area over here, but these are lighter columns. Was there a question?
Yeah, do we click reload or unload?
No, you're going to right click on it and you're going to go to unload.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Now I want to see if we have these columns. If not, it's not the end of the world. But let's go to the Insert tab. Now I want to go to Load Family. and you probably arrive at this, English Imperial. I want to scroll, let's scroll down till we find structural columns. Does everyone have that directory? Does anyone not have it? Good. So let's go to structural columns. Let's go to steel. Hopefully everyone has that. And hopefully you have all these columns in here. I want to grab HSS hollow structural section column. Does anyone not have that? Excellent.
Yeah,
Good.
I don't have that.
You don't have it?
No.
Tina, you don't have it? Everyone else doesn't have it?
Wait,
Yeah,
I just
and
I
can't.
have it, but
You do have it?
I do, yeah.
Oh.
I just can't find them on my computer.
Yeah, because we probably didn't download the content. So just for the sake of class, what we're gonna do is let's all just hit cancel. We'll use the columns that are in the directory, and then now I'll make sure I put them on Blackboard this week, those specific ones.
If I have it,
And
should I continue using those or?
no, you might as well stick with us. And then, because what we'll do is
Alright.
I'll show you how to swap columns out, because that is something you're gonna have to do,
Alright,
right?
cool.
So hit cancel. So let's go to structure. Let's go to structural column. Let's click the drop down here, and let's go with a W10 by 33. It's 10 inches wide, and it's 33 pounds per inch is what that means. So the higher the weights, the wider the flanges are going to be. So I'm trying to get a 33 in to fit into your little scrawny walls. Normally, the structural engineer does not care one bit about you having to frame out bigger walls because they need bigger columns. But we're just going to grab the 10 by 33 here. Okay. So grab W10 by 33. Okay. Now what I want to do is for the height. Let's make sure height is selected. And instead of level 2, we're going to go up to roof. All right, so these are going to extend all the way up. Now I just want to pop 1 in for now, just to give you an indication here. So if we zoom into this footing, we're just going to hover over this intersection. And we're going to pick this intersection right here. Pick that, then hit escape a few times. And there's our column. And the reason we only put 1 in, we're going to put them all in like we did with our foundation piers. But I just want you to pop that in, hit escape a couple of times, and I want you to select that column. Go ahead and select it. Now, what I want to show you is that column location mark. Notice that it knows that it is A1, right? Because, you know, last week we just kind of drew those in however we felt like drawing them in. The Revit understands that that is a point, right, for structural engineering and as well as just simply for laying out a building, right? It understands that this column is a unique column that lives at A1. It's its address, you know. So that's how Revit works. But now that we have that in there, hit escape a few times and zoom out so you can see everything. And let's go back to column, structural column. Let's go to at grids this time. And again, we'll have to delete a couple. So go at grids. Now, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to pick a window just like this. We're going to pick a box. We're going to go around the entire model like that. We're going to pick a spot like that. Then we're going to click on finish. It's like this, finish. Then hit escape a couple times. Them in. I want one here though, so we'll mess with that in a minute. Okay. So let's go to a 3D view. Look at that. We've got columns. We've got a few extra again. You can clearly see which ones are wrong. Now you can see how Revit is working, right? It's gonna, well, how basic structural engineering works. There would be a base plate there. We're not going to get into that. But you see that force is aligned with all of these lines. It's going to go straight down, and it's going to move that gravity load into the ground, right? Where you want it. Take it from start to end. So let's go back down to level 1. And let's just delete those errant columns. So I'll select that one there, delete it. We'll grab this one here, we'll delete it, select that and delete it, pick that one and delete it, and this one here. I'm going to select that, I'm going to delete it. Let me see 1 second here. Yeah, it's fine. So what I want to do is, I didn't place one here. So I want to select this column. Just select it, hit escape first and select that column. Hit your space bar once. It's going to flip it horizontal. See if I put the other ones in. Okay, put the other ones in. Notice that there, it's cool because they're kind of, they literally went at the, oh, that one didn't, but that's okay. We'll fix that too. So we're going to flip that one just like that. Did anyone not get that? You select it, you hit your space bar, and it's going to flip it. Let's go back to column, structural column. And we'll put one here, but what we're going to do is we're going to hit the space bar, we're going to flip it again, so it looks like that. Because we need them both. We need one to pick this wall up, and we need one to pick up our, well, what's going to eventually be tube framing. We'll just have to swap these wide flange columns out later. Let's come down to the bottom. Let's do the same thing. Did anyone not get this? Did everyone get that? Good, good. Now I'm going to pan down to the bottom here. And we'll do the same with this column. So you're going to select that column. You're going to hit your space bar. It's going to rotate it. We'll click the column button. And we'll hit the space bar. We'll rotate this one and we'll put it in. I didn't plan on that, but it's going to work out. It's going to work out real nice. One thing I'd like to do is with this one, we are going to fix that bump out though, because I want to give it a little more bearing there. Did anyone not get these columns in? Okay. So what I want to do is I want to go to the modify tab. My resolution is really small, so I need to click my little flyout here. But go to the modify tab. And we're simply going to click on the align button right here. Align. Now we want to select the line on our outside foundation wall first. This one here. Now we want to select the outside face of our pilaster here. That's going to align that. It gives us that bearing. We're going to do the same with the north wall. So I'm going to hit escape a couple times. We're going to click align. We'll select our outside foundation wall. We'll select the outside face of our pilaster, kind of a pilaster slash pier. And we're going to get that bearing. Should probably make it a little bigger, but that's okay. Well, I can live with that. Did anyone not get that? I see I have 2 questions. I think they're from the don't have. Okay. Okay. Everyone good? Anyone not good? All right, now we can add some steel framing to this. So this gets a little tedious. Let's now go up to level 2 in the project browser. All right, so under structural plans, there's level 1 analytical, and I want to go to level 2. So double click on level 2. Great. Now, structural framing plans are very boring looking. It's just a line with a piece of text on it. That's all it is. But back when we used AutoCAD, that's all it was. Right? It was just a stupid line with a piece of text that meant nothing. We're going to actually put in a wide flange beam, right? And we'll see it in 3D, and that text will be active. It knows if we change that beam, the annotation on that text is going to update, right? So if we go to the Structure tab, okay, and this time let's go to Beam. Click on Structural Framing. We'll click on Beam. Beautiful. Now for the beam itself, it's a wide flange beam. We'll click the drop down. Let's grab a wide flange. Let's grab a 14 by 30, because what we're putting in now is considered perimeter framing, where these are going to be the larger beams, and then later we'll go back and infill those giant bays with smaller framing members. But in this case, we're just going to add a W14 by 30, and we're just going to put it in point by point. But before you do, make sure on the tag panel, your tag on placement is checked, right? So it's blue, right? So we're going to tag that on placement. Okay. Now we're going to zoom in, and we're actually going to select the midpoint of that column. We're going to move our cursor down here, and we're going to actually select the midpoint of this column. And put it in, and it's a W14 by 30. And that's exactly how a structural plan looks. That's what we want it to look like. But if we go to a 3D view, right, we'll see that, if we pan around, that's a real beam, with real forces on it. And it's framing into here. We're not going to add the connection, right? But that's how it is. So the steel detailer or the steel manufacturer who's installing it, they're going to provide shop drawings that the structural engineer is going to approve based on those connections, based on the moment, based on the axial bending, right? But we don't care, right? So let's go back down to level 2. Did anyone not get that? Because we're about to do that like 70 more times. Everyone's good? All right. Okay. Click save. And let's start stick building in our beams here. So just around here, it's a little hard to figure out where we're supposed to be, but let's just frame everything in except for this radial part here. So I'm going to go to structure. I'm going to go to beam.
I have a question. Are we framing the radial part? I thought that's where the curtain wall goes.
We are going to frame it,
Oh.
but I want to wait. I want to do that together.
Okay.
So we're going to do a bunch of beams now, but then we're going to stop and we're going to do this as a group. It's a good question. It's just our columns aren't going to be as pretty as our beams are going to be for now. So let's go to the structure tab. Let's click on beam. And let's go. Let's pick that in. Now, if you turn the chain button on, it's going to make life easier for you. So keep chain on. Go to here. Go to here. Going to go to here. Then to here. Now remember, even if it's facing the side of that beam, it's going to cut itself back symbolically, right? So I'm going to just frame in my perimeter. Now what I'm going to do though, once I get down to C and D, this can be a much smaller framing member because it's only 8 feet, right? So I'm going to hit escape once, and for these, I'm just going to grab a W8 by 10, And that's sufficient for this little bay here. See, and this is the one time we accommodated the architect, and now we have to change the size of beam we're putting in. That's no fun, right? And let's just keep framing them in. We can use copy, we can do all that stuff, but I just want you to frame it in just to get used to clicking around and Revit. No one's gonna build it, so I don't think. I think maybe someday someone will build this building after I'm gone. One of my students will, in memorandum, build this stupid building that I have you do. Okay. And it is a race. Whoever gets done first gets an A. I'm kidding. I'm lying about that. I can't do that. That's against the rules. It's not a race. Especially if you beat me. That's going to be a real problem. I know it seems very redundant. And again, we can copy this stuff. We can, but to be honest, we're doing a lot of work here, you know. So it's, I mean, I don't mind taking the time on a building this size to stick frame it in like this.
So does the one from D6 to G6, do you snap it to the bottom beam or the top beam?
That's a good question. So we're gonna snap it to the G. That's the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
This one right here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that one goes to G. And I'm glad you pointed that out, Andrea, because that's gonna cause issues. Because it's a weird detail. You know, this doesn't need to be doubled there. The only reason there's two columns there is because it has to catch this framing and it has to catch this framing. So it creates a funky little intersection, and we're going to address that. So good question. So yeah, so the same for the north. If I go to beam, it's going to go from this one to here.
Are you able to like mirror the bottom half?
Absolutely. Yep. You can mirror it. You can do all that. I'm going to stick figure them in because I know that once I start doing that with a large group, it gets a little off. So I find that this does take a little longer, but I know that as a group, we'll be able to just draw it in. And yeah, if you want to mirror it, go for it.
Like if you mirror it, like it like has the new properties, right? Like actually, I guess that's more for columns, but like the A1, A2, and all that. If you mirror, it gains the new properties.
It does,
Okay,
yes.
cool.
The only thing you have to worry about is if you accidentally mirror something that's already in the spot where you're mirroring it to, then Revit's going to say, oh, you got two overlapping items here. But to be honest, if I was doing this at work, I would have been done quite a while ago. But again, it's part of it's a learning moment. So that way when you got it here, you'd be like, man, that was excruciating. It's going to mirror the stuff. It behaves very much like AutoCAD in that sense when we're doing this kind of grunt work. Okay, now for these, I'm just going to make sure I have a W8 by 10. And as Jacob mentioned, yeah, if I hold on my control key, I select my tag, and I select my beam, right? I let go of my control key. I can click copy. I can click multiple. Now I'm rolling. So I'm just going to pick a spot here. I'm going to go to here. And you'll see, because it's the line weight means something. The line weight on this means that is actually analyzed as a girder. If you were to miss, that line weight would get real thin and it would analyze it as a joist.
Could you repeat this, please, Professor?
You bet. So I'm going to undo my copies. So basically, I have this, everything's framed in except for my little W8 by 10s. I have one here, right? So I drew this W8 by 10 in here, right? So I just went to beam and I clicked here and I just said, all right, I want a little one. So W8 by 10, I'm going to pick this midpoint here. I'm going to pick this midpoint here. I had to skip a couple of times. Now I have that W8 by 10. Hold down my control key now. I'm going to select the tag, and I'm also going to select the structural framing member, the actual beam. Right? I let go of my control key. Now I'm going to click on my copy button, not control C like Windows clipboard, but copy right here. Now I want multiple copies, so I'm going to turn on I'm going to toggle on my multiple checkbox. Right? I want to pick a point of displacement. So I'm going to pick a point along this beam somewhere randomly. Pick a point here. Now I'm going to just make sure that it's horizontal. Pick along this column. I'm going to pick along this column. This one.
You show how it misses.
Yeah, so if I whiff, hit escape a couple times. Actually, it did analyze. You know why it analyzed it? Because it thinks it's framing into these, I think. It's like, I think maybe if I move it over to here and I unjoin those, making a liar out of me, it should show up real thin. Like if I was to draw another one in, maybe it'll, yeah, like that. See how that's,
Yeah.
it's not bearing on anything. This thing still thinks it still thinks it still thinks it's right. But that's what you're going to see. And that's what our intermittent framing, I think, is probably going to look like. All right, so it just shows up as, and again, if I select it, we'll see in the properties that if I come over here, where it says structural usage, I thought I just saw that, structural usage, it says other. It generally is going to be a joist, which is a hair thicker. But if I select this one here, and it says structural usage is going to be girder, right? In Revit itself, aesthetically, it makes a difference, but if we were to export this to an analysis application, that will make a difference, how we want that analyzed. So I can select the W8 by 10. These are all great questions. I'm going to copy this down to here. Geez, I didn't get this many questions in my engineering class. This is good stuff. This isn't my engineering class, is it? No, it's architecture. Once you're done, hit save, and I'm guessing people are still moving stuff and drawing stuff. I'll let it go for till 7:15. How do you get measurements to show on the beams? So if I wanted to measure the beam itself, if that's what the measurement or the actual annotation, the labels. Okay, so if the labels didn't show up, and that's no problem. Like if half of my labels didn't show up, I'm gonna just uncheck. I'm gonna check. I'm gonna delete them like that, right? Some of your labels aren't there, so or none of them. If you don't have labels on your beams, what we need to do is if you go to the Annotate tab. I love how Revit does this. This is the one feature that made me leave AutoCAD and go to Revit was when I did this for the first time. If I go to Annotate, and then we go to Tag All, right? Make sure you hit Escape first, because it'll only tag the items you have selected. Let's go Tag All, not tagged. And what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down till we find structural framing tags right here. Structural framing tags. Click Apply, then click OK. It's the same process is remember when we did doors 2 months ago? It's the same process for that. Did that work for you? Okay. You're welcome. Does anyone need another minute or so? Oh, I said I was going to wait till 7:15. It is 7:15. Man, time flies when you're getting stuff done. I'm sure you hit save, so make sure you hit save. I do see some people have a pretty questionable internet connection right now. So you can see it on the attendance panel. You can see what your up and down rates are. So everyone should be saving anyway. It doesn't matter. Okay. So here's what I want to do. Now we're going to frame in this. And if you remember, we modeled that curtain wall in our architectural model. We want the structural engineer to support it, obviously, but we'd rather see a little more aesthetic framing. Tube steel is what would generally go here. Like I tried to load these tube steel. So we'd have a nice tube steel frame. In this case, we're not gonna, but we do have tube steel framing in the template. So let's all go to the structure tab. And we'll click on the beam button. Just because it's a picture of a wide flange like I-beam, it's still just a beam. So we'll click on beam and we can change that. So instead of a W shape, right, we could do concrete. We're not going to do that. That'd be silly. What we do have HSS square. That's hollow structural section. HSS square. Let's grab 8 by 8 by 3/8 right here. Thick. 8 by 8 by 3/8. Now, what we're going to do is we can't just pick the line. So we're going to go start end arc. So we're going to click on this arc button here, start end radius arc. Right. So on the draw panel, the geometry of this beam is going to be start end radius arc. I'm going to click it right there. Now we're going to go start end and then the direction it goes in. So we're going to pick the midpoint of this beam. We're going to pick the midpoint of this beam. Now, once you move your cursor and it hits our arc, you'll see that it's going to form that and it's going to hit it. There we go. Now we're going to do the same here for C. Pick this midpoint, pick it here. I understand that we could get away with a smaller column here, but this is, I would keep it the same. You're the architect, but I'd keep it the same size. I think it would just look funny if it wasn't. Whoops, that's going to look funny. I spazzed out. I didn't mean to do that. Jeepers. We should leave it like that. I'm kidding. Don't do it like that. I spazzed out. I did it wrong. So I'm going to go back to beam. I'm going to go from here to here. I'm going to make sure I click a point right along here. Puts the text on the inside, which is annoying, but I'm over it already. Pick a point here. Pick a point here. They're going to come over, pick a point here. And we're going to pick a point here. Hit escape a couple times. No framing will go here, right? Next week, we're going to put a nice big staircase right here. And that staircase is going to go all the way up to the 5th floor, right? So we're not going to have any framing. That's going to be wide open. Did anyone not get that? Some people are dropping out because of their connection. It's all right. It's a good thing we're recording it. And I didn't forget to hit the record button at the beginning of class tonight. So I'm up in my game. Okay. Hit save again, just because that's a great idea. So hit save. Okay. We're doing pretty well. Now, like I said, that's a 25-foot by 16-foot giant gap. We can't span that, right? So we need filler beams to go in here. They can be smaller, not W8s. These are small. But I think W12s work perfectly in here. So we're going to put them in a little differently. So on the structure panel, you'll see that we have a beam system button. So we can add this stuff as an actual grouping, right? So if we go beam system, okay, now we can specify the beam type. The last one we used was that tube steel, but we can click the drop down here. And yeah, let's grab the W12 by 26. For the beam type, we're going to go W12 by 26. Again, it's 12 inches deep and it's 26 pounds an inch. Heavy. You can't lift it. I can't lift it.
Mine's 12 by 24.
What? 12 by 24? Are you sure?
Oh, sorry. I was looking at the top one. I see. Okay, my bad.
Okay, perfect. It's like, I don't know they make that size. I don't know that would make much of a difference, but so we'll grab the W12 by 26. The justification wants to be center. The layout rule. Now we want to just maximum spacing with this, maximum spacing. And the maximum we want to go with this size. Yeah, Annalie, I can start it again. So I'm going to hit escape a couple times. And now on my structure panel, I'm going to click the beam system button right here. And for the beam type, I want to choose a W12 by 26. For the layout rule, I want to click the drop down here and I want to select maximum spacing. For my spacing, 5 feet is going to be your maximum for this size of framing members. So 5 feet. Now, here's the deal. Notice that when you once you fill all this out, you pull your cursor into the drawing area, you get that little circle with the lines, the diagonal line, the no symbol, right? But if I hover over one of my perimeter beams, you'll see that's going to dictate the direction that the beam's going to go in. Now, the rule is you want to have more beams at a shorter distance than less beams at a longer distance. And that's just, it's a more rigid diaphragm that way, right? So we're going to hover over this beam here, this W14 by 30, this vertical beam. And once you see those dotted lines form, just pick that beam and it's going to put in that frame. And you'll see that that lighter line weight, which indicates that it's considered a joist. Did anyone not get that? Let's see, there's a chat. Oh, okay, that's a good one. Now this is pretty easy, but I do know that it's going to be tough in this bay here and this bay here, right? So I'm going to frame all of these in, all right? And when we get to the middle one, these are all going to be W8 by 10. So we're going to change that again, right? So I'm going to start doing mine. I'm going to go to beam system. And the defaults all should be what we had last time. I'm just going to pick here, here, here. See how much faster it is? Now, if I try to put one here, notice that it's just not going to let me do it. So I'm going to put one here, 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 here. See what I'm doing? See how much faster this is? Here, here, and here. Now, I want to put in my smaller ones, my W8s. All I got to do is come up to my beam type, change it to W8 by 10, go here, here. Was there a question? Here, and here too. I'm going to hit escape. I've got it framed in. a 3D view. And I know we still need to get this bay and this bay. What does everyone think? Goes pretty quick, right? It's going to go even quicker once we frame the floors above it. It's ridiculously quick. I'm going to go back to level 2. Looks like some folks are struggling with their internet tonight. Sorry about that. Some of you have up but not down. I don't get that. Well, mine's good, so I can keep recording. Okay. Anyone not up to this point? Anyone need another couple minutes? That's great. That's great. Now, these are a difficulty because of the weird little intersection here. It's because there's a gap here. That's okay. We can get them in there. It's just going to take a little more effort. Right? So we're going to do the same thing, though. We're going to go to structure. We'll go to beam system. The beam type, I want to make sure that this is back to W12 by 26. But unfortunately, automatic beam system isn't going to work out for us. We need to click on sketch beam system. Sketch beam system. Now, on the draw panel, you'll see we have a pick supports icon. You have to use that. So click on pick supports. All right. Now, it matters in which the order is that you pick it in. So if we pick this vertical beam, right, if I pick this beam, you'll see these two parallel lines. That indicates the span direction, which is what we want. We want them going north-south on the page, right? We're going to pick here. We're going to pick here. Then we're going to pick here, right? But unfortunately, there's a gap here, and that's what the issue is. So if you hit escape a couple times, you can just select this magenta line, select that grip, and just drag it up. Hit escape a couple times, then you can click on finish. It labels it differently than the rest of them, which annoys me because we don't get a chance to relabel it. But I can show you how to label it better later. Once you've got that one, let's come down to the bottom here and let's do this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to beam system. We're going to go to sketch beam system. And again, on the draw panel, you need to click on pick supports. This vertical one, this north and south one first, because that indicates our span direction. Click here, click here, click here. And we zoom into here. Skip a couple times. Select that magenta line, grab that grip, and drag it down. Oh, this is nice. Finish. Go to a 3D view.
Could you repeat the last few steps, Professor? My system crashed.
I saw that. No problem. I saw that you bounced back in. That was not everyone's been bouncing back in. So I appreciate your effort. Yeah. So you probably don't have this bay in either, do you?
No.
That's fine. So I'm going to delete mine and we'll do it together. So yours looks like that, right? Okay. So let's go to structure. Let's go to beam system, just like we did. Now for the beam type, let's grab W12 by 26. Layout rule will be maximum spacing, and the spacing will be 5 feet. That's fine. But what we need to do is we need to click on Sketch Beam System right here. Now, within this panel, what we need to do is click the Pick Supports icon. We have to pick that. We have to click a beam. So pick Supports. And let's pick this vertical beam right here, the one running north and south. And once we pick that, we'll see these two little parallel lines that will indicate the span direction of the beams in that bay. We're going to pick that one. We're going to pick this one. We're going to pick this one. Then we're going to pick the south horizontal one. Then if you hit escape a couple times, what you need to do is, this is the whole problem right here, is this little gap. So we'll select this line here, grab this little grip and drag it up till it comes into contact with the horizontal line. Okay. Now, once you've done that, you can just simply click on Finish Edit Mode. And it's gonna frame it in. Now I'll just repeat that on the bottom, right? And I'll just do it a little quicker. I'll go Beam System. Defaults are good. I'm gonna sketch Beam System. I'm gonna pick Supports. Bing, bing, bang, boom. I'm gonna just grab that grip, drag it down, click Finish. Then of course I look at it in a 3D view. You gotta admire your work, right? I have a big monitor on the wall in my office, and I always make sure these 3D views are prominently displayed. It's showing off. That's exactly what it is. I'm proud of it. Proud of it. So, does everyone understand what we're doing? Everyone gets it? Anyone not get it? It's pretty common framing. Structure is the easiest trade to do in Revit. I'm not saying it's the easiest trade, right? There's certainly more liability on a structural engineer. I shouldn't say there's liability on everyone, but these are beams and columns and concrete. There are situations where you have to do some custom stuff, but 80% of structure in Revit is you're just going to pop it in there, right? So let's do this. We're doing well. We really only have to do one more thing. Then I want to go back to the architectural model and just check out how it looks in there to set us up for next week, because everything we do from this point on, we have to deal with the fact that we have a structural model in our architectural model. And unfortunately, structure gets in the way sometimes of what it is you want to design. And that's just a fact of life. But what I want to do is, let's go back down to level 2. And the objective here is we're gonna copy and paste these up to the other levels like we did with the floor. But we have to be a little pickier when we do this. So under structural plans, we're down on level 2, right? And we are going to just select everything in the model, and then we're going to run a filter, and we're going to filter out only what we want, okay? So let's pick a window just like this. And notice this is the 3rd time we've done this kind of thing tonight. But this one takes a little longer because we're physically selecting everything. So once you get to the lower left-hand corner, just let go of your pick button. And we can't just copy all this stuff because Revit will just not respond, right? So we have all this stuff selected, okay? With all this stuff selected, if we go to our filter button right here, filter. Well, I got to buy one. I got to get my lawnmower going. So click on filter, lawnmower. Now look at all this stuff. Notice how it counts it. This Revit knows exactly what's in our model at all times, right? So right now it's easier to just click on check none. So click check none. All right, let me see, what do we want? We really only want 3 things, okay? So let's click on structural beam systems. Let's click on structural framing girder. Let's click on structural framing joist. And you understand now why it delineates between the two, right? It's just the way we modeled it. Okay, so all we need are 3 items: structural beam systems, framing girder, framing joists. Click apply, click OK. All right, now we actually are going to copy it to the clipboard. So right here is the copy to clipboard button, right there. It's good old fashioned Control C, right? Copy to clipboard. Notice once you click copy to clipboard, the paste icon lights up because your Windows clipboard is now loaded with, actually I shouldn't say that, Autodesk has a separate clipboard for Revit content. The paste icon is lit up, but it's a little easier to see it though if you go to the default 3D view, right? So let's go to our 3D view. Okay. Now, make sure you're on the modify multi-select tab, and for paste, don't click the icon. There's a little drop down just underneath it. Okay, so click the drop down here, and we want to come to aligned to selected levels. Okay, aligned to selected levels. And I always screw this up when we get to the next step. So click align to selected levels. Now notice that we can choose the levels, right? So hold down your control key. I'm sorry. Don't hold down your control key. Select level 3. Hold down your control key. Select level 4, 5, and the roof level. So 3, 4, 5, and roof. Now click OK. And it will take a second. We're doing a lot of work here. We're letting Revit do the work. And then once it's done processing, you got a lot of steel in there. Yes, there's a question?
Yeah, I got a warning saying that there are identical instances in the same place, and this will result in double counting in schedules.
Right. It could be that you did select level 2. That's common. Or it could be that you had some columns selected. Or it could be that you already had something doubled up on level 1. For this, I wouldn't worry about it because aesthetically it's not going to make a difference. Yeah, so sometimes if we duplicated a joist bay, it probably gave you the area. So is there a command to select duplicates and delete them? Kind of, kind of. So I'll generate the error. So I'll go to paste again. So here, watch this. I'm going to go to paste. I'm going to align to selected levels, and I'm just going to paste stuff that, don't do this. If you didn't get the error, don't do this. Don't follow me off the ledge here. I'm going to paste it to level 2. I'm going to click OK, and it's going to generate some errors on me, right? So warning, 1 out of 150. Uh-oh. So I'm going to close out of here, and now we'll see we have this dialog right here that says show related warnings. It's tedious to delete them, right? So it's like, oh man, I got warnings. So like if you hit escape a couple times, I forgot what tab that's actually on. Yeah, so if you go to the manage tab after you hit escape, go to manage, go to, on the inquiry panel, we have review warnings. and you got to go one by one and delete them. If you drill into this, look, here it is. Look, you got to freaking, you want to avoid this. Look at the undo button's your friend in this case, right? I have a lot. Every beam I duplicated on that level. You might not have this many warnings, right? You might just have a couple, which in that case is fine. You'd be like, oh man, look, here's this. I can click on show. I'll close that. And it'll zoom in on it at least. But when you have 150 like I have, that's not valid. So I'm just going to close mine and I'm going to undo it. But that's how you find those duplicates. Are there any other questions? You're welcome. You're welcome.
Wait, so we can leave it like that for now?
Yeah, you can leave it like that for now. It's fine. It's fine. And if you were at CNS, if you're actually designing the scene, you need to go back and delete that stuff. But what I would do is I would just delete all that framing. I'd delete it all. If I had that many errors, and I'd do it over. Because you can see it goes kind of quick. And also you can see if you've done this a lot of times, you're gonna pop that back in pretty fast. But in sake of, just with the class, it would be a little redundant. It'd be tough to keep doing that. All right. So let's do one more thing. Let's open up our architectural model after it, and then I'll let you go. But what I want to do now is I want to go up to our roof level structural plan. Let's go to roof. We got to tie these back at some point. So let's go to roof. And well, first of all, we need to label everything, right? So let's go to the annotate tab. We hit save first. What am I doing? What have I done? Hit save. Good Lord. Now go to the annotate tab. Put your tag all. Let's go down to structural framing tags. Click apply. Click OK. That's how you label up a plan real quick. I don't label them individually, but still, it's pretty awesome. We just need to put two beams in here now because this is the roof, right? We got to tie these back. These two columns are tall, and they're going to want to lean out or in, and they're going to want to twist. These beams are going to want to twist a little bit. We need to prevent that. So go to the structure tab. Let's go to beam. Let's just grab the biggest one we've got. So click the drop down here. Yeah, let's grab this W16 by 26. Right, and we're going to draw that. We're going to model it, right, just like we've been doing. Make sure tag on placement is checked on, right? We're going to pick a point right here to here. Then we're going to hit escape once. Pick a point from here to here. Then we'll hit escape a couple times. Hit save. Go to a 3D view. I don't know why I have you do that. There's no reason to really do it. There is. You want to make sure everything's where you expect it to be, right? Okay. We'll save this one last time. Now let's click on this button right here. This is close inactive views because we have a lot of views open. It's easier to just close out this model because we're going to open the architectural model. We already have it linked in, so it should just update it. So click close inactive views. And we're going to close out of this 3D view. Now, the only problem might be is if you used my model from Blackboard, probably not going to line up with your model, but let's see. Or I'm going to close the 3D view. And now under models, let's go to open. And grab your architectural model. See how it makes those backups? Those backups are terrible, but grab your architectural model. Open. And here we are, right? Here's all of our framing. If you go to a 3D view, notice it does not speed the model up. Oh, mine's going so slow for some reason. Oh, because I've got my stupid shadows on. Remember I told you not to turn those on. Right, here's all of here's our framing, right? In our model. I don't know why I'm missing my first floor. Let's make sure I fix that. But there you go. That's how it works, right? So now if we, in our project browser, go to some of these sections, like if we go to our roof section, here's our framing. It's holding up our freaking roof, right? So we're coordinated with the structural engineer at this point. Any other section for that matter. You know, all of them, floor to wall detail. So everything you detail as an architect, suddenly you have that structural engineer's detail with it, for better, for worse, right? So now you can imagine anything you move or adjust or change is going to affect that trade. Anything they move or adjust or change is going to affect you, right? So that's why this course is not called Revit. This is building information modeling, right? And this is how we coordinate. Yes, there's a question.
Yeah, Professor, I'm not kind of able to get the structural model into my architectural model because I use your model.
Yeah, so yours is going to be, is it in there at all?
No, it's not. And then even when I'm using my 3D view, then I'm only getting a view of the room, like the kind of close up 3D model that we did. I'm not getting like a 3D model of the whole building.
Okay, so in the 3D view, if you scroll down on the properties, scroll down until you find, where is it? Section box. Your section box is turned on. So you want to just uncheck that first.
Okay.
Right? Now you can see the entire model.
Yeah.
Now, if you scroll down in your project browser, you're still in a 3D view, right?
Yeah.
If you right click on Revit links,
Okay.
right now if you go to new link,
Yeah.
you need to browse for your structural model, press a structural EW. The problem is it's going to be in the wrong spot unless we somehow miraculously model these exactly in the same spot. So you're going to grab structural EW
Okay.
and then you're going to click open. Positioning will be auto internal origin to internal origin. And it's going to be shifted, right?
Yeah. I got this kind of dialogue also saying the following nested links will not appear because the reference type is set to overlay.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's what you want because that's the architectural model. So, and now looking at it, it probably looks like it's off, right? It's in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you want to do is it's probably Oh, I pinned mine. No, I didn't. So if I move it, oh my God, this pains me to do this. Well, it's not even gonna let me do it. Let's see if I can move it now. There we go. It's off, right? So what you want to do is you need to click on Align. So go to your Modify tab
Okay.
and go to the Align button right here.
Yeah.
Now what you need to do, I don't know if yours is above or below it or what. You need to come down to your north wall here. You need to pick the center line of that wall.
Okay.
At first. Now you're going to find your column line A, and you're going to pick that.
Okay.
It's going to align it to that wall, right?
Yeah.
Now you're going to do the same thing for your vertical wall. You're going to select the center line of this wall here.
Yeah.
Now you're going to select your column line number 1, and that should line it up.
Yeah, got that.
Good. I'm going to keep yours. I just don't like having to do that. But so if everyone can see, this is how it works, right? Now we're coordinated with structures. So next week, we're going to have to make some floor adjustments. We're going to put a staircase in right here, and we're going to turn this room here from an office into a stairwell that's going to be framed in with CMU, right? And that takes a little while. And if we have time, we'll model some ramps coming up to grade here, okay? But for tonight, we're good. I know that tomorrow I have you uploading your model. If you're struggling with it, I know some people have midterms due still. I thought I avoided that. Get them in there when you can at some point this week. I appreciate everyone who's put theirs there. The majority of you have done that. Looking at the grade center here, it looks good. A lot of people got theirs in. If you're struggling with it, just let me know, okay? And we'll take it from there. But in reality, I'm going to check it on the weekends, and then next week you're going to get the email. I'm going to email you all again personally, just to check in. And if I know I skipped a couple people this time. My brain doesn't work well, so if you don't get an email from me by class next week, I missed you somehow, and I apologize. So get those handed in. Again, I'm not going to be critical of it. I'm going to look at it and just be like, hey, if just add these couple things. I don't expect to see stairs, but I saw some models with stairs in them, right? Or framing like this. I don't expect to see that. Like I said last week, if you're doing a residential building, you don't need a separate structural model. But again, though, I see some people handed some in. It's great. I'm going to look at it on an individual basis. I'm not going to be like, oh man, the model before is so much better than this one. I don't do that. So don't stress about it. Just hand it in. It's not for a grade. And I'm just going to, email you back. Okay? Is everyone good?
I've got one more issue, Professor.
Uh-huh.
So I've got like these different elevation markers as well.
Yeah.
For the floors.
The elevation markers, meaning these.
When you go in 3D, then then the annotations that are mentioned, the floor levels.
Oh, the levels, yes.
Yeah, so there are different levels.
There's gonna be, right, because you have levels for your architecture model. Now you have levels that are coming from your structural model.
Okay.
Because the levels for our structural model are 6 inches below our finished floor.
Okay.
So it looks sloppy, but that's intended. That's
Okay.
correct.
All right.
So it's a good question. Anything else?
That's about it. Thank you.
Great. Okay, guys, you can all go do whatever it is you do on a Tuesday night. So we'll talk to you next week. Bye bye. You're welcome.